I want to talk to you about hate. It's something I had a very large dose of during the Second World War. Something like a disease that you cannot get rid of. It took me about 10 years to really understand the source of my hate. It was consuming me. The first time my village was bombed was by the Italian Air Force. It's the first time I saw someone, it was a woman, with her clothes and her skin completely blown off. She looked like a skin rabbit. She had been putting the key into her front door when the bomb fell on her house. Mind you, at the time, those were small airplanes, and those were small bombs. After we had identified the plane as Italian airplanes coming from Italian Air Force, people got out, and people immediately thought that the only family in the village with an Italian surname, the Bianchis, were responsible. Of course they were not. They had no way, no possibility to call in the Italian Air Force, even if they had wanted to. These were good people. But the village became so angry that those people had to leave their home, all their belongings, and disappear during the night. I don't know where they went, but I often thought of them. I couldn't quite then get myself to hate the Italians. Previously, I had loved everything Italian, from music to pasta. After that, we were bombed by Hitler's Air Force. The French army was running away, and they were strafing the soldiers who were passing through the villages, hugging the walls of the houses. I understood that the enemy was Germany, and I started to hate. Hate with every fiber of my body. Hate filled my pores. I hated everything German, and I wanted them dead. Especially after they killed my grandfather a few hundred feet from me while I was hiding under a pile of dead leaves in a gully. I hated so much. I wanted to do so much harm to everything German that it stayed with me for years. And the war was ended. I was in America. I was safe. And yet I still hated. I had nightmares every night, reliving the time when I was under that pile of dead leaves and I could hear the battle going on, and my father, my grandfather, I called him Papa, he brought me up, being shot. I began to think about that hate that consumed me, those nightmares that made me wake up absolutely soaked and I had to change my night clothes. And I thought this was a normal reaction. This wanted to kill before they kill you, even though the threat was no longer there. I somehow, to keep life going, had to discard this hatred. and I began to think of its origins. The origins were many. To begin with, our national anthem that said, "Let their blood run in our furrows." These were the enemy. We were brought up long before there was a war to think that we had enemies that we had to kill. This was in the national anthem that every little French boy and French girl learned. The anthem says, "They're coming after you. They're coming to slit your throat." It's still there. So there is a culture in which hatred is perpetrated. For hundreds of years before that, in medieval time, the French were fighting the English. The English were the enemy. Then after that, it was the Prussians or the Germans. Every 30 years, a new generation of young boys went to kill somebody. And they were our enemy. And I thought, but we are their enemy. And they are saying the same thing about us, that we are worthless, as we thought. They were worthless because in order to kill someone, you have to dehumanize that person. It is less than a person. It is no longer a German. It is what we call un Boche, which is the name of the batteries they had in their truck, and that's why we call them Boche. It was also in our literature, the kind of stuff that we read about in schools, about Alsace and Lorraine, about the way the Germans were forcing those people to change language and change culture. The whole country, the whole culture made you want to hate someone. So when I began to realize that my hate had been conditioned by my culture, for one, and then that it was augmented by my guilt for having survived, for not having done enough, perhaps, to save my grandfather, although I know very well it would have been impossible. There was a whole German battalion out there. But nevertheless, I had the guilt of the survivor as a French person, as a Jew, as a thinking person, as a feeling person. And once I had realized that, the hate simply evaporated. It's a very strange thing. The hate evaporated. And I was able to talk to young German people who also were aware of what their father had done, who had probably to do in reverse what I had done to really get rid of that hate that consumed me. And I was able to enjoy the company of Germans, listen to German music, read German literature, and see those people as victims as much as I had been at the time. I saw them as victims of their government, of the culture of hatred that had been perpetrated then, of their parents' allegiance blindly to a government that told them we were the enemy, as I was told they were. So where does that lead us? Where do we go with this? It never ends. I hate you, you hate me, I kill you, you kill me, and there's nobody left to talk. I think that's why I understand very well the feeling of outrage that people felt after September 11. This is a normal reaction after being hit by so monstrous an action. The parents, the friends of the victims of September 11 must feel something like what I felt. You want to hit back. You want to punish those who have given you pain. But if you punish the innocent, the non-combatant, when they grow up, they will not forget. They will want revenge again. They have children, they have parents, they have relatives, they have friends too, who will want to punish us for the pain we inflict upon them. People who commit monstrous acts must be brought to justice in the proper tribunals, international courts. They cannot be gotten rid of along with all the people around them. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth is a monstrous notion. It would leave us all blind and toothless. We must somehow stop the spiral of hatred, destruction, retaliation, revenge, because it doesn't stop. You must ask yourself, what does it do to me? What does it do to them? If I consider you my enemy, you probably consider me your enemy too. And if I hurt you, you want to hurt me back. That is, if we have not begun the process of thinking it through. We must do the introspection, the psychological digging, the cultural critical analysis that is needed to get rid of hate. You have to understand that all governments who go to war have an interest in making you hate the enemy. You, after all, are going to be either cannon fodder or you're going to pay the bills. It is much better that you should pay them willingly. There will be propaganda thrown at you from all directions. They will tell you it's patriotic to hit back. They will tell you it's a thing to do. And you will want to do it. Because first you consume by hate, you want revenge, and then the state will sanction the retaliation. It will help you to get rid of any doubt or any feelings of humanity you may have for other people, for the non-combatants, for the children who are screaming, dying in the rubbles when the bombs are falling down, wherever it is. My grandmother tells me that when we were being bombed by the Italians, I said, but what have I done to them? Now, some children somewhere in the world, hungry, crying, hurt, is wondering what he or she has done to us. We are hurting ourselves if we kill innocent people. We will be the victims of our own hatred. People have to understand how it works. The state propaganda will make it easy for you to hate. You must resist. You must resist this, because hate is a boomerang. It always comes back at you. You must resist it with all you have. You must stand, as I do, at street corners, saying, stop the war is wrong, killing the innocent is wrong. You may do anything to stop this mindless spiral of destruction. People have the power to do that. They may not do it right away because the propaganda is very strong. There is macho feeling involved. Nobody can do that to me. Yes, they did it. Now what do you do about it? Little boys are told that if somebody pushes them on the playground, they're supposed to push back. We are very macho, even though we think other cultures are more so. We feel that because we've been hit, we have to hit back. There's also this idea that you've got to do something no matter what. If the government stops and thinks and does nothing, we will think that it is a weakness, because action is valued. We say it's better to do something than to do nothing, no matter what it is. Well, that's ridiculous. We've got to think about our actions, because every act has a consequence. So, when you want to hit back, the first thing you have to do is think, why? Why have I done so much harm or offended the other party that they want to do harm to me? And then enter a dialogue, ask forgiveness for your sins or mistakes or the hurt you have caused the other side. It is not civilized to go pick up a hatchet and start swinging, even though our culture encourages this kind of behavior, whether in a sports arena or in international affair. A man who wants to reason is often thought weak. But a statesman, where are they? But a statesman is a person who thinks down the line, who thinks further than the immediate reaction and the rising in the polls. A statesman is someone who can think 30 years down the road, a whole generation of young men. This is what he has to think about. What will they think 30 years from now, not tomorrow? We're very short on that. We're very short on that. And the population as a whole does not think critically, has not been equipped to think critically. And yet, critically, we must. if we are going to survive as a civilization worth its name, we must think critically. What are the results of our actions on other peoples, on the resources of the planet? What do you think that war is for? But for resources, namely oil. Who's going to build the easiest, fastest pipeline to a port? Do we go through what we call enemy territories? No. We have to be able to control the pipeline so they don't get blown up every weekend and they have to be repaired or patrolled at tremendous cost. We need to have safe pipelines for this incredible liquid that nobody can drink or eat, that we consume by the gallons when it's not necessary. There are other ways to move machinery. There is wind, there's tides, there's solar, there's all kinds of ways. But we're addicted to this one because there are large interests around this liquid. It's not just oil that you put in your gasoline, but it's all the plastics and all the derivative from the petroleum product. And if Osama bin Laden and his cohorts hadn't given us an excuse to get in there, we would have had to fabricate one. Because we need the oil around the Caspian Sea. Because we guzzle it. And instead of building small cars, ecologically intelligent, we build bigger ones. And they look good, don't they, on television with all the kids and all the dogs and the whole football team in it, all at once. We're crazy. We have to come to our senses. What are we doing to the Earth's resources and the people who live on top of them? We are used to grabbing. Ever since England and France and Portugal and Spain had empires, they were used to grabbing things. In Indonesia, the French were in Indochina because of rubber. The French were defeated in Indochina by people who resisted, people who knew how. And the Americans went in there and it was called Vietnam. Ridiculous, isn't it? Ridiculous. When are we going to learn to think critically, resist the propaganda of all the governments who have interests in getting your son to go to war, to protect the interest of very few large corporations? You must begin to feel for the people who are receiving bombs, who are screaming of hunger, in pain, who see their families, their villages, their cultures destroyed. You must begin to feel for them, because you cannot limit your pain to your family, to your clan, to people of your religion. You must begin to feel for everyone on the planet, because now you live in a globalized society. All the resources you consume every day come from someplace else. You are in a way related to all the humans on the planet. You must think about them, not just your own immediate needs and welfare. It's a small, beautiful planet. It needs a lot of care. We're in danger of doing great harm, not only to everything on it, but also the animals on it, of which we are just but one. You must think about all the consequences of an immediate feeling of hate and retaliation for harm done to you. You must think all the way down the line what it is doing to those people, physically, psychologically, spiritually, culturally, everything that you feel yourself. They are just like us.